Good evening and welcome to tonight's council meeting. Would my chaplain please open the meeting with a prayer, and this allows time for personal reflection before we start the business of today's meeting. Thank you, Tim.
Thank you. Well, here we stand with all our differences, political differences, differences in life experience, different personalities. But those of us who would identify as followers of Jesus, as Christians, we would say that the message at the heart of the Christian faith that we celebrate, particularly at this time of year, as we come up to Christmas, that message in part underlines not our differences, but the needs that are common to all of us. On the night of the birth of Jesus, the message of the angels to the shepherds was this, that they got good news of great joy that will be for all people. Because today in the town of David, a Saviour has been born to you, to all of you. So with that in mind, let's pray together. Our loving Heavenly Father, we thank you for the reminders in your word that as we gather together again in this way for this meeting, we stand on common ground. Whatever our differences, we remember that the message of hope given at Christmas speaks of the needs that we all have. We also realise that as we meet and talk and listen to each other, that there are many pressing needs in the different communities where we serve. And so we ask for your help, your strength, your wisdom, as we seek together to give of our best in serving the people of Torbay. We thank you that we have the privilege of living in this part of the world. Help us, we pray. In the name of Jesus. Amen.
Please be seated. Thank you, Tim. I will now ask the Chief Executive to outline the procedure for today's meeting.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Members, when speaking, please ensure your microphones are turned on, and if you wish to leave the meeting before it's finished, please follow standing orders and give your apologies via the Head of Governance Support. As always, we are live streaming this meeting via the Council's YouTube channel to encourage more people to engage in our public meetings. And the proceedings of the Council meeting will also be recorded. We're not expecting a fire alarm. If there is a fire alarm, please follow staff and congregate in the Riviera Centre car park, lifestyle members car park. And members, please ensure your phones and iPads are turned to silent.
Thank you. The purpose of this meeting is to deal with major issues for the well-being of Torbay and best interests of the community. Today's agenda will be dealt with efficiently, with fairness prevailing throughout discussions and strict procedures being adhered to at all times. I expect respectful speeches from councillors along with healthy debate. I will not tolerate inappropriate personal comments or repetition. I have been concerned that behaviour at previous meetings has been disrespectful, and I will no longer tolerate this from any councillor. I will be continuing to take a zero tolerance approach to ensure our meetings are conducted in a professional and orderly manner. As such, I will ask the Chief Executive to outline the procedures for how I will be running the meeting.
Of course, Madam Mayor. Members, if you wish to raise a point of personal explanation or point of order, please do so by raising your hands, and the Civic Mayor will allow the person that's speaking before taking these. For points of explanation, the Civic Mayor will ask what your statement or what statement was made that you wish to provide an explanation upon, to which she expects a succinct response. Only once the Civic Mayor has confirmed that she will permit the point will you be invited to provide further detail. In respect of points of order and following the Constitution, the Civic Mayor will ask whether you're raising a point of order on breach of the Constitution, a breach of the law, or a significant factual inaccuracy. Civic Mayor will take advice upon that, and she will then determine whether she will hear from you further. The Civic Mayor has described how she'll take a zero tolerance approach, and at any point in the meeting where the Civic Mayor considers there to be any disrespectful behaviour, she will bang the gavel, members, and she will give warnings, and of course can always direct the member in question to leave the meeting for the item under discussion or for the remainder of the meeting. Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Should the meeting go on beyond 7 p.m, I will take a break for members. Apologies for absence. Do we have any apologies for this meeting, please?
We certainly do, Madam Mayor. So we've got apologies from Councillor Emile, Councillor Barmby, Councillor Kennedy, Councillor John Thomas, Councillor John Kavanagh, Councillor Jack Dart and Lee Howgate. Madam Mayor, with those in attendance, that's all of the members.
Thank you. Leaders, do you have any other apologies that you are aware of? Group leaders?
Madam Mayor, no further apologies.
Thank you. Minutes of the meetings of the Council held on the 13th and 27th of October. I propose that these minutes are signed as a true record. Do I have a seconder?
Seconder, Councillor Brown. Madam Mayor.
Thank you. All those in favour?
Councillor Brown, you have your microphone on.
Councillor O'Dwyer, would you like to come in, please?
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. My question is on accuracy in regard to the minute on page 10, item 50. I raised a point of order at that council meeting, and regardless of the outcome of that point of order, I felt that it would be accurate to retain that item in the minute, or they're not minutes, they're just a record of a decision. Thank you.
Thank you.
We're just checking the Constitution, Madam Mayor.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank
you. Councillor Dwyer, if you could just give us 1 moment, please. We're just checking. Thank you. Councillor Dwyer, it has not been normal practice for us to record points of order or points of personal explanation on the minutes that are taken. Thank you. Therefore, I now call for the vote. All those in favour? Is that unanimous? Any against? Any abstentions? That's carried. Thank you, members. We now move to declarations of interest. May I request the Chief Executive ascertain whether we have any declarations of interest, please?
Of course, Madam Mayor. Have any members or officers any non-pecuniary or disclosable pecuniary interest in any of the matter on today's agenda? Madam Mayor, nobody's indicating, so therefore there's no need for anybody to declare anything at the start of any item, therefore.
Thank you. I am pleased to introduce the first long service recognition for both councillors and officers at this evening's meeting. This evening, I will be presenting certificates to councillors who have completed 10, 15 or 20 years service and officers who have 20 years service or more. The number of certificates I am presenting this evening demonstrates the incredible dedication to public service in Torbay. Would the Chief Executive please join me in presenting the certificates?
Madam Mayor, in respect of members firstly, I'd like to invite Councillor Steve Darling for 27 years of dedicated public service as a local councillor. Councillor Morey on 25 years of dedicated public service as a local councillor. Councillor Christine Carter, 15 years of public service as a local councillor. Councillor David Thomas on 15 years of public service as a local councillor. Councillor Ray Hill on 11 years of service as a local councillor. And Councillor Terry Manning on 11 years service as a local councillor. Members, I think we're going to gather for a short photograph before, in front of the dais, please, members. A little photograph, maybe. Are you going to go in the middle? This way, am I going this way? Members, thank you. So moving then in terms of the staff long service members of certificate. So firstly, Lindsay Amiotti for 45 years of dedicated public service. It's a long walk. No, I don't think so. Next to members, you'll know this person well, June Gurray for 33 years of service. So on this certificate, it says Catherine Phillips, but I know her as Kathy Phillips. So Kathy, on 33 years of dedicated public service. Embarrassed. Next to Nikki Passmore, 33 years of dedicated public service as well. Next, we're moving to Tracy Brooks on 32 years of dedicated public service. John Bell on 31 years of dedicated public service. Joanne Adkins, 30 years of public service. Next, we've got Gina Powell, 29 years of public service. Long walk. Sarah Riddles, 28 years of dedicated public service. Mandy Guy, 28 years of dedicated public service. Kate Spencer, members, 27 years of dedicated public service. Members, Teresa Buckley, 27 years of dedicated public service. Debbie Roach, 24 years of dedicated public service. Julie Dearson, 24 years of dedicated public service. Congratulations. Amazing. Janice Davies, another 24 years of dedicated public service. Mary Walker, another 24 years of dedicated public service. So Natalie Johns, 23 years of dedicated public service. Excuse me. So we've got Sharon Simpson, 22 years of dedicated public service. Robert Williams, 22 years of dedicated public service. Catherine Williams, 21 years of dedicated public service. Denise Thomas, 20 years of dedicated public service. Congratulations. Still on 20 years, Emma Dudley, 20 years of dedicated public service. Another 20 years, Jill Brooker. And last for this evening, but by no means least, Robert Boswell, 20 years of dedicated public service. Members, I think just customary again, we're going to just take a short moment for those members of staff who would like to, not obliged, but who would like to come to the front and have a photograph with the Civic Mayor. Please come forward.
Are we ready to carry on? Thank you. I have the following announcements to make. Since our last meeting, I have been quite busy, and it has been the remembrance events, and I did several remembrance events which were very poignant and very emotional. But the services in Torbay and Paignton, which I attended, were very meaningful, and it was an honour to represent the Bay. I've also done a civic coffee morning, which a number of you have attended, raising funds for my 2 charities. And I've also started my work now in the health service, visiting certain health clinics and hospitals to say thank you to our health staff and our social services staff for all the hard work that they do, not just through the last few years, but at all times. I've got some events coming up, obviously, my Civic Carol concert tomorrow, which I hope as many of you will attend as possible. Thank you. Has the leader of the council got any announcements that he wants to make?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The Heart of the South West sadly had to be adjourned due to poor attendance, and I'll report back in due course when that meets. However, I know that Cabinet colleagues, and with your leave, I'd be extremely grateful if you would allow 3 Cabinet colleagues to share some Christmas good cheer. The Cabinet colleagues are Councillor Mike Morey, Councillor Cordelia Lawton, Swithin Long, and Councillor Swithin Long, if that is permissible, Madam Chair.
Yes, of course. Which one? Let's go first.
Thank you, Chair. Just for a short time, I would like to concentrate on Swissco and the achievements by Swissco. I'm sure that members who visited Swissco at Aspen Way on Monday appreciated the opportunity to see at first hand the improvements to the service it delivers, which has been made possible by the investment put into the company by Torbay Council. I do believe sincerely that members who attended could see the massive steps Swissco has achieved in providing services to residents over the last couple of years, despite the pressures put on by the company by such things as COVID pandemic and other major constraints. Members were able to see the new baler which has been purchased with the investment from the council. That baler processes the collected recycling into compact bales and is now fully operational. This means, in reality, a reduction in the loading time of 75%, meaning more materials can be processed at any one time. The ability to process hard plastics such as old garden furniture. Previously, these were sent to the incinerator. So thus, this will be helping to increase the recycling rate and reducing costs. We also saw the new bales were much more dense, enabling us to reduce the number of lorries required to collect the bales from the site. Old bales were actually 240 kilogram, where the new baler is near 600 kilogram. There have been less damage to the bales previously than in the old baler because of the nature of the process. Members were also keen, or was able to see, the 2 new Haco street cleaning machines which are now deployed. They are currently working on leaf clearance, which, despite the long autumn, is on schedule, and also weed ripping on roads and pavement edges. Members also saw new electric quad bike, which has been recently arrived, and it is currently being fitted with the weed control applicator, I should say. This will shortly be deployed across the bay to begin applying residual weed control to pavements and road edges. Work has also begun on the detailed development of the Abevus IT system and the location of bins, fly trucks around and sweeping routes are now being built into the system. Following completion of this work, a detailed schedule of street sweeping will be available, showing routes, timings of sweeping and scrubbing work. The ambition is to provide 3 sweeping rounds and 2 scrubbing weed ripping zones, hackle, 7 days a week, all year round. Chairman, Madam Mayor, sorry. The garden waste herbicide curbside collection service went live as planned on the 31st of March, and the collection service is working well. There are currently around 3,700 customers.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Murray. I think you've told us quite a lot there. Thank you. Councillor Long, would you like to come in, please, if you want to tell us something succinct, please?
I will be succinct, Madam Mayor. Just to say, from my area, just a couple of the projects that are happening. Tourmarine received detailed planning in November, despite my comments in favour, so that's good, and a more detailed phase is coming through, and work will start in June 2023. St Kilda's planning assure us that this application will be determined in January of next year. Debenham's detailed planning was obtained in November, which is good news, and on Crossways the site hoarding has been erected, and work such as asbestos and other hazardous items will commence removal in January. And on Tweenaway Cross, the second floor of the building is now being built, and without the funding that was put in, those projects wouldn't be proceeding, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Long. And Councillor Law?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'll be very brief as well. I just wanted to say a really big well done to Rachel Setter and her team in our Children's Services Learning Academy. A couple of weeks ago, I had the privilege to travel up to London with them, as they were one of 4 national finalists in the Children and Young People Now Awards for Workforce Development. And although not the overall winner, it's a great achievement and recognition for our Learning Academy to be shortlisted, because they only opened, as we know, about 3 years ago now. They were shortlisted in the final alongside national organisations such as the Children's Society with the British Transport Police and Catch 22. So this is the 4th national award where various aspects of our children's services have been shortlisted as a finalist, and I'm sure you'll all agree that it's outstanding achievement, and I hope you'll all join me in extending our thanks to everyone who's worked so hard to successfully transform our children's services to children and young people. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Law. Has the Chief Executive any announcements she wishes to make?
Yes, please, Madam Mayor. Members, it's with great sadness that I need to advise of the passing of a serving member of staff, Margaret Smith, who worked as a school transport escort since 2020, but had previously worked for us as a sessional worker in children's services from September 2001, recently passed, members. Members, our thoughts and prayers are with Margaret's family, friends and colleagues at this very sad time, and I'd ask that you join me in a minute's silence to pay our respects and to remember Margaret. Thank you, members. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Has the Overview and Scrutiny Coordinator any announcements she wants to make? Councillor Douglas Dunbar.
Not at this time, thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. A petition has been received regarding Torbay to Torbay Council to provide double yellow lines on the on the junction of Barnfield Road and Malden Road, Paynton. Approximately 118 signatures, with approximately 118 signatures. Will the Chief Executive present the item?
Of course, Madam Mayor. Members, the petitioner has requested that it's presented to the council meeting tonight. Madam Mayor, Councillor O'Dwyer's hand for it.
Okay. Councillor O'Dwyer, would you like to come in?
Yeah, just a point of order on a factual inaccuracy.
Yep. Yes, would you like to?
Thank you. Yeah, point of order, it's 15.2. It's just that when you look at the agenda, it says that any petition should be in accordance with Standing Order A12. That doesn't appear to be the right standing order. Thank you.
It's a typo. Yeah. That's a typographical error, Councillor O'Dwyer, but thank you for noting that, for raising that with us.
Members, in respect of this petition, Councillor Douglas Dunbar is presenting this. Councillor Douglas Dunbar, clearly you're already at the meeting, but welcome. You have 5 minutes and I will let you know when you have 30 seconds remaining.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As the elected councillor, I would like to present this petition on behalf of the residents of Barnfield Road, who have increasingly voiced their concerns over the safety of the junction of Barnfield Road with Malden Road. This has been going on for a number of years. There have been numerous accidents and near misses. The junction is situated above the brow of the hill, and with increased parking on corners by cars and high-ended vehicles along the road, increase the risk of accident. Traffic on Malden Road is increasing, especially when other roads are shut in the bay. Speed is also a constant problem, and it is difficult enough to see cars coming down the road, but almost impossible to see cyclists and motorbikes. That's really all I have to say, is that it would be really appreciated by the residents that double yellow lines could be painted on the roads. Thank you.
Councillor Douglas Dunbar, the petition will be referred to the Director of Place for consideration in consultation with the Cabinet Member for Infrastructure, Environment and Culture, and you will receive a letter to advise you of the outcome of your petition. Madam Mayor.
We now move to members' questions, item 7. Members, I will interject if I consider your supplementary question to be a statement. Would the Chief Executive please explain the procedure for members' questions?
Of course, Madam Mayor. Members, the questions and answers have been circulated. I am aware that there's been a difficulty accessing ModGov this afternoon, but you should have received them by email instead of that. On behalf of the Civic Mayor, I will invite any supplementary questions, but members, those supplementary questions must arise directly out of the original question or the reply. Supplementary questions are not permitted to include a statement, and standing orders require that you are only permitted to ask one supplementary question. There is a time limit of 1 minute to ask a supplementary, and the response is 3 minutes with overall maximum time permitted 30 minutes, members. On that basis, I will start, members. So question 1 in respect of spend on Torbay Council highways budget 22-23. Councillor Foster, do you have a supplementary question?
Yes, I do. Thank you very much, and thank you for Councillor Morey for the reply. As I read it, less than 50% of the work has been done, yet 75% of the year has already gone, when we've missed out on good weather, when road resurfacing, lineage, painted, any improvements outside schools, etc. could have been done. So disappointed in the answer. So my question is, will he assure us that there are no plans to not spend the money so that it can be spent elsewhere? Thank you.
Councillor Morey.
Thank you for the supplementary. Can I give you an assurance? Absolutely, there are no plans to hive off that money. The reason why it's not been spent, you'll see in paragraph 2 of the reply, there's been issues, but hopefully we're nearing overcoming those issues. But yes, no, that money is for the highway network.
Moving to question 2 in respect of the council's borrowing. Councillor Bye, do you have a supplementary question?
No further question. Thank you so much.
Question 3 in respect of the climate emergency and council vehicles. Councillor O'Dwyer, do you have a supplementary question?
Thank you. Mike would be unhappy if I didn't. Sorry, Councillor Morey would be unhappy if I didn't. So after declaring a climate emergency 4 years ago, we don't know what our energy use or where it comes from. Can I draw your attention to a Freedom of Information inquiry on the 4th of October this year that stated we have no EVs and we have no petrol vehicles. So can you confirm that in the last 2 months we have bought 14 vehicles, 12 petrol vehicles and 2 EVs? Or I'm slightly concerned how both of these statements can be correct. Thank you.
Councillor Morey.
Thank you. Thank you. I can reaffirm. I am not. You don't disappoint me. Absolutely not. But I can confirm that, to my knowledge, the reply you've had is accurate. I honestly cannot comment on a Freedom of Information paper which I've not seen. So you can, if you want to submit that at a later date, more than happy.
Councillor Moore, your microphone, please. Thank you. Moving to question 4 in respect of empty homes. Councillor Foster, do you have a supplementary?
Yes, I do. And again, I'd like to thank Councillor Carter for her response. As she's a long-standing councillor, she may remember in 2018, the Liberal Democrats did do a press release regarding empty homes in Torbay Council, where there was 553. In that press release, it was Councillor Pentley who quoted, "It is a scandal that so many homes locally are sitting empty." My question
is this statement.
Yeah, no, so I'm just explaining. So my question is now, we're now 2022, what words would she use to describe a council with 1,285 sitting empty?
Councillor Carter.
It's not actually the question you asked me originally, is it? But we are working towards reducing this number, and we've just taken on an empty homes officer in December. So he's just started this month. So we're working towards the plan that we have. We've got a strategy that we all passed earlier this year. So we're working on it now.
Moving to question 5 in respect of the lines on pedestrian crossings at Lisbon Square. Councillor Bye, do you have a supplementary question?
Indeed, thank you so much, and I appreciate the apology from Councillor Morey on behalf of Swissco for the delay 10 weeks in responding to this inquiry about the faded lines. What should I tell the gentleman who was knocked over on Christmas Eve 2020 in respect of when the lines are going to be refreshed at the crossing on Babbacombe Road by St Matthias? With all due respect, I don't see that there's much of an answer in the written response that you have given to the question. When are these lines going to be refreshed, please?
Councillor Morey, please.
Excellent way of losing weight, up and down. But yes, Chairman, we will be, so I can give the assurance that we'll be addressing, and it says in the report, we will be addressing as soon as we can the issue that you raised. I am sorry that there was an accident and an injury at the Wellswood Avenue area. But I can give you assurance, what we're trying to do, or Swissco is trying to do, is catch up on 11 years of inactivity, basically, on line marking. So we're doing our best to catch up on that. None of us, we all want it to be quicker than possible, but I think it does give a reason why it's been slower than we had hoped for in the original reply. That makes sense.
Moving to question 6 in respect of the Harbourview Hotel. Councillor O'Dwyer, do you have a supplementary?
I do. Councillor Cowell, there will clearly be impacts from removing nearly 2% of our current net discretionary spend that a few jobs won't fix. But will you now answer the question and state for how many decades, future years, the revenue budget will have to fund this hotel before the council sees a penny in profit from our build? Thank you.
Councillor Cowell.
Thank you, Chief Executive. And I think the answer is quite clear that there will be a number of years of pressure on the revenue budget, which will actually diminish over that period of time as the rents increase. So the answer is already being published. Thank you.
Moving to question 7 in respect of the Torbay Climate Partnership meetings. Councillor Foster, do you have a supplementary question?
Thank you, and I'd like to thank the Climate Change Champion for his response, and I do hope he is able to attend tomorrow's meeting, because at tomorrow's meeting we will be discussing the Devon carbon neutral plan. So the carbon neutral plan is to be carbon neutral, this is for the Devon one, by 2050.
Councillor
Torbay,
Foster,
I'm just trying to explain.
What is your question?
Well, I'll go straight to the question then, but just so that they understand what the question is. So my question is, Torbay Council has a plan 2030 to be carbon neutral. Do you see it as important to attend these meetings, and do you see it's important as to be able to achieve that, how important it will be to show leadership in that goal?
Well, I thank Councillor Foster for her question. Clearly, you don't understand the way the working world works. I started a new job. I simply cannot attend tomorrow's meeting. Part of these meetings do take place in the working day. Clearly, you have no sense of the way the working world is at the moment.
Show some respect.
Okay,
to
I
our
will show
colleagues,
some respect,
please.
actually, to be fair. So,
you.
no, like I said, I cannot make it due to work commitments at the end of the day. I do see climate change as important. As I put in my question to you, that I am a committed climate change champion. Councillor Morey will be hopefully substituting me tomorrow. And like I said, I do keep in regular contact with the climate change team. I've played my part helping Councillor Morey at certain meetings to do with climate change and taking its place over the last 12, 18 months. And that's my answer. Thank you.
Moving to question 8, in respect of the barrier at Meadfoot Beach car park. Councillor Bye, do you have a supplementary question?
If I may, two bites of this particular thorny cherry, if you could have a thorny cherry. First, does Councillor Morey understand why the term boy racer, which was in my original question, is regarded as unacceptable language at a council meeting? And given the continuing nuisance of I'm told that they've got to be noisy motorists rather than boy racers in the vicinity of the Kilmorey Flats and the Ocean Marine Drive, and this has been going on for months, when will a decision be made about what can be done, please?
Councillor Morey.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, you don't expect me to answer your comment on certain things that you've been asked to change. But I can give you an assurance that it is on the cards that we're looking at clearly with Susie and the directors on options available. We recognise the issue in that area, and we'll try to address it as quickly as possible.
And members, the last question in respect of planning enforcement cases. Councillor O'Dwyer, do you have a supplementary?
I do indeed. Thank you, Councillor Morey. Again, you're going to have to stand up one more time. I note that an enforcement officer is coming in January of next year. How many cases can an officer clear off in a week, have you been informed? And so, when will the cases, enforcement cases that we currently have, be less than, let's say, 200 outstanding?
Councillor Morey.
Yep. As you expect, I cannot give that information because I'm not aware of the answer at the minute. But if you would like to submit it in writing, I'll make sure you get an answer.
Madam Mayor, that is the end of the questions.
Thank you, Mrs. Bond. I now move to item 8, Proposed Council Tax Support Scheme 2023-24. Please refer to page 15. Can Councillor Cowell please put his motion to the Council?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And this is really quite a technical process in terms of paving the way to ensure that we can continue with the 70% threshold, i.e. meaning that those who are eligible for the council tax support scheme will pay 30%, bearing in mind pensioners are exempt from this particular scheme. So it's the real motion, in actual fact, is set out on page 16, 3.1 to 3.4. And clearly the scheme will run for the next financial year. It's regrettable that it's only 30%, but we would like to do more in the future. But more on that perhaps a bit later. So I'm happy to propose it as read on page 16. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Cowell. Do you have a seconder?
I rise to second and reserve my rights. Thank you very much, Madam Mayor.
I now invite some debate. Do we have members? Councillor Chris Lewis.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. A very simple question. In the report, it mentions the hardship fund. Can the portfolio holder please tell us how much has been taken up on that hardship fund? I mean, if you can give a comparison with previous years, it would be helpful, but if not, I understand. But if you can give a ballpark figure whether there's been a lot of demand from the hardship fund. Thank you very much.
If we don't have any further debates, nobody else indicating, I'll go back to Councillor Darling. You reserved your right, sorry.
I'm happy to go back to Councillor Cow for any finishing remarks. Thank you.
Councillor Cow?
Thank you. Well, that's probably the shortest debate we'll have tonight. So I haven't got the precise figures, Councillor Lewis, but we can get that. But I mean, what I can say is that the level of take up on a range of hardship funds and opportunities there are for people to call on support during this time of crisis is obviously increasing, and we're acutely aware of the pressures that people are facing because of the cost of living crisis, because of some of the measures undertaken on one crazy afternoon on a Friday, I think it was. And it's interestingly that at the AGM of the Community Development Trust recently, they were expressing the numbers of people who are calling the Torbay helpline, who are actually, I think the number is now up to 48,000. But we can again clarify those numbers and the growth in people using that helpline in recent weeks. And I'm sure there's others around that will know precisely the types of pressures that many people are facing. We are absolutely committed to making sure that crisis support and hardship support is available to those people who absolutely need it, and that they're signposted and supported by our partners through the Food Alliance and through the Community Development Trust, Torbay Helpline, and the plethora of community-based organisations in the voluntary and community social enterprise world, which to Councillor Byers VCSE, then we will be continuing to work with them and encouraging that level of support. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Carroll. I will now move to the vote. All those in favour? Is that unanimous? That's unanimous. Unanimous. Thank you, members. Item 9, Council Tax Base 2022-23. This report was circulated on the 5th of December. Please refer to page 2 in the late pack. Can Councillor Carroll please put his motion to the Council?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Again, this is a procedural requirement to ensure that we have the published figures to enable some of our precepting authorities, such as Brixham Town Council, to be able to calculate their council tax. But this year, we've actually given notice within the motion of 3 other key principles that we're looking to introduce. And this actually comes into play in part around the number of long-term empty homes as well, that we can encourage through this process to hopefully bring those homes back into use, in answer to an earlier comment from a member opposite. So the key principle that is being allowed that from April 2024, subject to the legislation going through Parliament, the Council would adopt a 100% council tax premium in respect of second homes. This is a measure that I think is long overdue, and you know, if you can afford to have the luxury of a second home in the splendour of Torbay, then you should be able to afford the council tax on that home. Or in addition, and this is the bit where empty homes will potentially benefit, that we will adopt a 100% council tax premium in respect of empty premises that have been left unoccupied and substantially unfurnished for a period of between 1 and 2 years. Again, a significant measure. It's not just about, you know, generating income. It's more about getting those homes back into use. And thirdly, the point that we will consult early in 2023 to consider a change to the threshold, which is currently 70%, of the council tax support scheme, which would come into effect in April 2024, with a report being brought back to Cabinet. So that's an absolute commitment to look at the council tax support scheme threshold, currently set at 70%, dated back to when it was introduced in 2016. We want to try our best to improve that, which will actually improve the income of those homes that will benefit and residents that will benefit from that. So with those 3 additional recommendations to the 4 that would normally form this part of proceedings for establishing the council tax base, I so move.
Thank you, Councillor Cowell. Do you have a seconder?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and I rise to second. And clearly, the work, the key element of this report is in respect of the base. How we fund the work of the local authority throughout the year, and it's important that we stay alive to that. I would particularly, echo the issues that my colleague highlighted around second homes. It is a particular blight in Brixham, I'm aware of, both second homes and Airbnbs, where there are significant challenges to communities there, and one would hope that this would drive some change around that agenda. I'm also only too alive to that in our the ward that our mayor represents in Timon, that there are many blocks of flats around Torquay Harbour side where perhaps 30% of them are second homes, and that is extremely challenging for the residents who are there, where perhaps there are moves against maintenance and having support for people in those areas, so it has some impacts that one wouldn't expect, but also it has that impact of empty properties that could be being used by local residents in Torbay. So I particularly welcome this. We would have been welcome to have it starting sooner rather than later, but it's important that we lay that marker down as a local authority. And whilst this week we've seen Airbnb registration going in the right direction, it still isn't fast enough, and it isn't as aggressive as we need it to be, because I know that is impacting on some of our communities, and particularly in Brixham again, where there are real challenges for people in that patch. So I hope members will be supporting this because these changes are welcome, although it would be good if we could bring them in sooner rather than later. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Darling. I now invite debate. Anybody? Councillor O'Dwyer, would you like to come?
Yeah, thank you. Just really to support what was said, in that I think it is probably the right time to look at the threshold, to have a report that gives us the information to make good decisions going forward. Nothing like that should be held in stone forever, because that's not how the world works. I would also raise a point that there is a difficulty in the second homes, in that we also are a premier resort. So we need to find that good level of second homes, Airbnb, all of those things are an integral part of our tourism offer here. If people don't want to stay in our hotels, they may want to stay in a private house. And we do want to support those kinds of families also coming here. If somebody does have a second home, maybe that is part of the enforcement backlog that I was raising with Councillor Murray, that we've got 400 and something. Second home queries and planning queries weren't the priority. It was heritage, TPOs and things like that. So it could be that some of the issues that we're talking about are actually linked to other parts of our own authority. Swissco collecting from second homes, when actually it shouldn't be. That should be a commercial. And that could be Swissco again, but it shouldn't be falling on the taxpayer. So I do think this is the right time to look at that. And I don't want to throw the second home and Airbnb out. I want them to pay a fair rate that means all of our residents aren't overpaying for services that are being provided to other people. So there we go. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Dwyer. Councillor David Thomas.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I have some difficulty in understanding 3.7 and the council tax support scheme consultation. I can remember council tax support scheme, I think, came in about 2016, and I remember that members opposite criticising when it was brought in that it was only brought in at the national standard that was being brought in. Obviously, for the last 4 years, we have seen uprating from the administration in line with the national standard at every opportunity. However, they've had 4 years of opportunity to do something different and haven't done that. We've just voted and supported the council tax support scheme for next year, and yet that is an integral part of the council tax support scheme, but wasn't even brought under that item that we've just discussed. 4 years to actually make a change, no change coming forward. Elections next year looks like the start of an election manifesto. Let's use the council at the moment to do a piece of consultation so that the council can pay for that consultation, and then we'll use that as part of a manifesto pledge to come in April 2024. So I guess to try and keep it nice and sweet and to try and understand, why is this wrapped up in what the portfolio holder described as a technical document? Because in all honesty, when this document has previously come forward in the past, it has been about a technical document about the number of ABCs, etc., Torquay, Paynton, Brixham, and it is to allow that precepting, and I just can't understand why this has kind of just been dropped in on the end as 3.7. The cynical part of me would say it's been dropped in because it was a late report, and therefore it can just come in right at the end, because this wasn't within the papers at all. I mean, council tax support, if you're doing a consultation on it, just can't understand why it wasn't in that first document. Maybe we can have some understanding about that. That would be helpful. Thank you.
Thomas. Councillor Bye.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And I have to say I'm very uncomfortable now about this debate and just using the word blight, as we heard, on second homes and holiday homes in what is a place that has always been an important holiday resort and has the aspiration to be a premier resort. I think it's a much more complex picture, and over many, many years, I grew up in the Bay. In the 1960s and the 1970s, when there were many more visitors to the Bay, there's actually been a long-term trend of holiday accommodation, old redundant hotels, holiday camps, blocks of apartments that were built to be holiday accommodation, being used now as permanent accommodation or providing sites for residential development. I would say the majority of recent residential development on the south side of the Bay has been on former holiday camp sites. Those places in South Devon that tend to, and in Cornwall as well, that tend to have thriving high streets and a wide selection of eating houses also tend to be places with high percentages of second and holiday homes. I'm not going to reflect on Brixham. I think that would be inappropriate given how I earn a living. But in Torquay, in my own Wellswood ward, we have a number, probably a modest number, of second homes and holiday homes, but a lot of those are very upmarket properties that if you made a penalty charge and people put those properties for sale, realistically they're unlikely to come on the market at prices that youngsters and local families would be able to afford. There's a lady I'm in regular touch with who lives in Scarborough, who's had a holiday home, her family, on Thatcher Avenue since it was built in the 1960s, so there's nothing new about this, and if that property came on the market now it would probably be £1 million. It's hardly going to be putting a roof over the head of somebody in need. So it is a much more complex picture than I think has been indicated by the speeches we've heard on this subject just now, and I would suggest talking about holiday homes and second homes as a blight is a very inappropriate remark in a place that has the aspiration to be a premier resort. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Councillor Bye. Councillor Long.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. And I just wanted to respond on the some comments around the council tax support scheme. Reversing what's happened to the council tax support scheme in 2016 does necessitate a significant financial commitment on the part of this authority, and we've had quite a lot to do over the last 4 years, not namely improving the council's finances, and I pay tribute to Councillor Law and other cabinet members for their hard work on turning that service around and improving the finances. The situation hasn't been helped either by the constant one-year settlements that we've received from government, which makes it incredibly difficult to plan for significant financial changes such as that to the council tax support scheme. But I know that particularly, I'm pretty sure that 100% of the partnership is behind making this change, but I know that Councillor Stockman and I have been particularly driven on this, and we were particularly keen that we wanted to have a marker for this as a sign of what the partnership's plans are. If I was a cynic, I would take what Councillor Thomas has said as an argument against improving the council tax support scheme. So I wonder if that is a manifesto commitment as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairman. I think it is strange that this document should have had 3.5, 3.6 and 3.7. We've heard from members on this side the reasons for it. We are trying to be a premier resort. I think we're struggling, but we are trying to become a premier resort. Therefore, now is probably not the time to knock Airbnbs and others. But it doesn't actually say of any consultation. Doesn't actually say of any consultation except for on 3.7. So I'd like to hear what the English Riviera company, the bid company, what their thoughts on this and other people. But it doesn't say in this document that any consultation will take place. It says quite clearly that in principle they agree that April 24 they will bring that in. So I'd like to see more consultation, more open dialogue between all members, and maybe it's something Overview and Scrutiny could look at between now and 2000 and whatever date you 24, yeah. So on this side, we will not be supporting this, although we, of course, have done in previous years. But in previous years, we haven't had three options stuck in at the end, which are actually quite important. So we will be abstaining on this. But we look forward to having a dialogue of how we can help you guys between now and next May, and then maybe progress whatever comes out of the dialogue and the consultation. Thank you, Madam.
Thank you, Councillors. Councillor Jackie Stockman, please.
Madam Mayor, would you mind if I remain seated, because I've got an issue with my knee? Thank you. First of all, I wanted to support Councillor Long in the council tax support grant, which we have been trying to raise year on year. But I'm sure everybody will be glad that we're trying to be prudent with our monies, and we were advised not to do this on several occasions. But it is a marker that we want to place down. It is something that we aspire to, and there's nothing cynical in it at all. The second thing is with regards to those that are able to own second homes, etc. One would hope that they would be in a position to at least pay the same or similar amounts of money, council tax. And there are lots of loopholes that have been used over the years for people to register as business, and they've only had to actually prove that they've let those properties for so long, and indeed those same people claimed relief for COVID, etc., all of that time. So we are trying to lessen the inequalities in the Bay, and this is one of the ways of doing it. And I can't imagine why anybody in this chamber would not want to lessen the inequalities in one of the highest areas of deprivation, and I'm shocked, quite frankly, that you would do that, because if you are fortunate to own properties, then you should be able to pay. And as Councillor Dwyer said, if you're going to receive the services, then you should have to pay the same as everyone else. If you're not going to receive the services and you're going to go for a different, organisation to offer you those services, that's fine. But if you're expecting the same services of those that live here all year round, then you should have to pay for it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Stockman. I don't know anybody else who's indicating, I will return to Councillor Cowell for your right of reply, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And I think it's quite clear that there's a possibility of clear blue water emerging between this side of the chamber and the other side of the chamber, because on this side we support those that are on low incomes who are requiring that support through council tax support, and that's why we're laying down that marker, as Councillor Stockman and my colleagues have been indicating this evening, compared to the opposite side of this chamber where they support those with second homes. What a clear difference between the principles and policies of the partnership and the opposition. And the reason why it's coming forward now is we inherited a financial mess. We inherited a situation where children's services spending was escalating, and we managed to turn that round by the collective support of the council as a corporate body, and with the support of many colleagues opposite. That has meant that we can stabilise our financial position, and despite the current in-year challenges and expected continued challenges in children's services, we believe that now is the opportunity to be able to lay that marker down, have that consultation early, and make sure that it's embedded in the principles of the 24 to 25 base budget. And it appears, because the Deputy Leader of the Opposition has already indicated how colleagues opposite are going to vote, I thought we actually had no whip system or group-based voting system in that regard, but maybe I've been under misapprehension. And I think it's already been alluded to that it has been really difficult over the last 4 years to actually set budgets when not only do we only have 1 year visibility in general, but we don't get the settlement until late in the day. The fact that there's been chaos and division up in Westminster is actually impacting us on a day-to-day, week-to-week, month-to-month basis. No business would be able to run sufficiently well in that chaotic economic environment. It's been a real struggle for us, and when I talk to the 151 officer and other members of the finance team and colleagues around the senior leadership, it has been so difficult to understand where money is coming from, whether it's the adult social care budget that is still in chaos and not being dealt with at a national level. That's where the crisis is in terms of some of the budget setting. And it's interesting that there are other neighbouring authorities that have already got a higher council tax base for CTSS rather than the 70% that was adopted by the then administration. And the reason why the other two elements of it, in terms of the second homes and empty homes, it hasn't been legislated for yet. We're waiting for your colleagues in Westminster to get their finger out and legislate so that it can be introduced. And so if that legislation requires consultation, then of course we'll consult on it. But we are laying down that clear marker now that we will be intending to raise that additional council tax on those two communities, which will actually help pay for 3.5. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Cowell. I'll now move to the vote. All those in favour, please raise your hands. Can I do again? Any against? Any abstentions, please? The motion is carried. Thank you, members. I now move to item 10, Torbay Economic Growth Strategy. Please refer to page 166. Can Councillor Long please put his motion to the Council?
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor, and I'm happy to present the Economic Growth Strategy 2022 to 2030, which is fresh back from the consultation process. The current repositioning plan has been being delivered for the last 2 years and was designed as a response to the COVID-19 pandemic. Whilst parts of the repositioning strategy are still valid, a new strategy is needed to tackle Torbay's longer term and underlying challenges, some of which have become more pronounced following the pandemic. This strategy is deliberately designed to be a longer term strategy to tackle the longer term issues facing Torbay's economy. The strategy is also very much evidence led, and the evidence based document can be found in Appendix 1 of the report. Pages 28 and 29 of the report highlight the issues facing Torbay's economy. For example, over a quarter of Torbay's population live in the UK's most deprived areas. Nearly half of the population are over 50, with only 8% aged between 16 and 24. The workforce has decreased over 2% between 2015 and 2020, and there are high levels of part-time work, which affects the gross value added figures. Also, employers find it hard to find people with the right skills for the jobs that they need to fill. I'm aware that there have been representations that this strategy is too negative and might put investors off. In my view, a strategy has to be honest about Torbay's economy, the challenging conditions, and what we need to do to attract investment. And obviously there are also other documents and materials which will be used to attract investors. And other challenges that we face involve guide dogs running around loose in the council chamber. The strategy before us also does highlight some positives. For example, photonics and microelectronics are growing, and I was very pleased that the firm Nanusens in the EPIC building are growing very well, and we are pleased to support them from the Economic Growth Fund, despite warnings from the party opposite. Unemployment remains low and vacancy rates are high. The strategy before us proposes 4 priorities: supporting innovators, entrepreneurs and business owners and ensuring that there are conditions for businesses to thrive. Building on the Bay's economic specialisms, there are some key bedrock industries in the Bay, including tourism, fishing and photonics, which it's important to keep supporting. This has proved to perhaps be the most contentious part of the strategy. However, the fact is that these industries provide employment, and there are growth opportunities as evidenced by the recently passed Destination Management Plan. Helping our community reach their economic potential and building an inclusive economy. This is about improving skills and improving social values, such as through our community wealth building approach. And fourthly, maximising the economic value of natural capital, for example, the marine industry, geopark, and a good environment to attract key industries such as tech. The outcomes we are looking to get from the strategy are more full-time jobs being created, reducing the impact of climate change and increasing resilience to it, and increased gross value added, and also improving the educational attainment and workforce skills. Paragraph 1.4 of the report sets out the consultation process that this strategy has gone through, and I would like to sympathise with members who have heard me present this item for the 4th time now, as this strategy has been to overview and scrutiny and to Cabinet twice. Like other strategies which have been co-designed, the private sector were engaged in the development of this strategy. An action plan will come in January for approval, and I would like to propose this item as outlined in item 3, please, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Long. Sorry, slip of the tongue there. Councillor, do you have a seconder?
I believe Councillor Long is about to second it.
Yeah, we're easily confused. I rise to second and reserve my right, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. I now invite debate. Do we have anybody? Councillor O'Dwyer, do come in, please.
Thank you. Just trying to find the right page. If you look at the first part of the report, it is unfortunately not a great picture, not a great view. It's an indictment, really, of managed decline over multiple administrations. The gross value added reductions alone on page 13, which is 192 in the papers, should really make everyone question, have you done the best you can do? Also on page 192, page 13, are the top sectors of economic growth GVA. Previously, only one of these areas was covered in any depth in the first iteration of the report. In this version, now you could definitely say there are two covered, tourism and healthcare. That really came from the consultation that was taken. However, the other key profiles, sector profiles in this report, currently employ closer to 2,000 people of the nearly 47,000 people that are employed in Torbay, across the bay. So I do believe more needs to be done to raise the boats of all and the wages of all. We seem in the report to have missed real estate and housing as a driver of economic growth. In the report, it is the highest current output for GVA in there, gross value added. And I think it's simple to say, when you look through the report about employment land, you look at essential workers, wages, the deprivation here, we clearly do not have enough housing. The years where we haven't built enough homes are the years of that decline. You can see it. We haven't built homes, we haven't built affordable homes. We need more housing here. We need more employment land, as we say. We need more housing, and we need good housing and affordable housing to house the essential workers on, for certainly the foreseeable period, on lower wages than in other locations. So we need the housing to house the essential workers that are required now and into the future to support the people who are coming to Torbay, which are the over 50s and definitely the over 75s when you read the report fully. They are the age groups coming to Torbay. The people of younger age are leaving. So we need to understand if the older persons are still an economic driver here, which they can be, and are part of the 7,000 workless households here. It is not a bad plan. It really isn't as far as it goes. But I was expecting and hoping for more. And I do have one to drive the growth for all, not just a few choice sectors. I know that we don't have enough money being pumped into economic development because we have so many priorities. And I do accept that. But we have to understand that it is a priority to raise the deprivation, to reduce the deprivation, to raise wages for all. And that will support the whole of Torbay moving forward and have the more income in Torbay. So it's not a bad plan, but it's just not as good as it could be. We've picked a few sectors, maybe some winners, maybe not, we don't know yet. They're a bit flighty, the sectors we have picked. Fishing could be impacted by, storms, and suddenly we've lost a huge amount. The investment zones, fishing in a different area or a different fish type, all of those can impact us, and our plan doesn't give other options. Similar for photonics, we've seen it in the past when Nortel went. We've got the scraps of that, and they're scrappy. They're fighting for income, they're fighting to raise their businesses, but it is still a bit of a flighty area. So it is the other areas that I also want us to focus on, the ones that do bring in income, and that is why I am glad that healthcare and medical has been added in. The other point that I just want to make, and I'm just going to look on my notes on here, it was about when the sorry, I'm just trying to find the recommendation, when the the action plan is going to come back. There's no date on it. I would hope that somebody would recommend, and I'm happy to second them because I'm probably running out of time.
You have 30 seconds, Councillor.
See, as if by magic. Let me just find it. Sorry. It's the recommendation. There's no time frame on when the action plan's going to come back. If somebody could recommend it will come back within 2 months, that would be fantastic. If you could take that on board, and that's all I want to say.
Thank you, Councillor O'Dwyer. As there's no more debate, Councillor... Councillor Bye.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Quite a lot to sort of get off my chest on this one this evening. Firstly, it needs to be proofread. There are actually contradictions between the evidence base at the beginning and the strategy itself, and then within the strategy, for example, on the status of Brixham as a port, our demography, and the skills level of our population. There aren't consistent statistics through the report. So the big thing to talk about, I guess, is what is missing, and that this could be sharper, it could be more focused, and it could have a much stronger ambition. The report, the strategy, talks about a time bomb. That particular phrase is used twice. And I don't make any apologies for explaining what that time bomb is. We have an ageing population. Depending on where you get your statistics from the report, it's almost 50%, over 50. In one part of the report, it says more than 50% over 50. One line in the report says 50% of our working age population is over 50. That simply can't be true, surely, but that's actually what it does say in there. So we have an ageing population, we have a shrinking working age population, fewer jobs, those who are working or working age population. Again, there's a contradiction. It says 9% have absolutely no qualifications. It says 9% of the whole population at one line have no qualifications. That would be surprising if little toddlers had qualifications, and it wouldn't really be relevant if centenarians had no qualifications. But I'm assuming it is the working age population, 9%, that's actually getting worse. Those who are at work in low-paid, low-value employment. 40% of that is part-time, which is quite exceptional. That's way out of scale with any other area. So an ageing population, a shrinking working age population, fewer jobs, lower skills, and more part-time work. That is the time bomb, and that's explained, even though some of the statistics seem to contradict. You haven't got a sufficiently bold plan to address those issues. The vision is unclear. The one priority, the first priority about supporting entrepreneurs, I think that is absolutely fine, and I would support the first. But the others, I'm sorry to say, supporting our existing, I'm trying to call this up, but supporting our existing sectors, the danger of that is that it's same old, same old, same old. We need to have a fundamentally different approach to our economy and to build a new economy. And I absolutely support what Councillor Edouard has been saying. The third and fourth of the priorities seem to me to be motherhood and apple pie. Councillor Long has had 4 goes at this, and I've basically said the same thing 4 times in response. So we're getting to know each other. I would say fundamentally the demographic challenge is the issue for Torbay. And if I was a bright teenager, if I was a young graduate again, is there anything in this that would tempt me to stay in the Bay or to make my future in the Bay? And I'm sorry to say the ambition, the vision is just not bold enough and clear enough. It wouldn't make me want to stay in the Bay or attract me to the Bay, not least because of the housing issues that we face. And there's nothing much there that would encourage me to think that we're going to build the houses to provide the accommodation for a working age population so that we can prosper. So there's things in here that I would support. I believe our group is going to support this, but it could be a lot better. It certainly needs reading through. I await with interest the action plan, which I think you say is going to come to the Cabinet. But we are a place in decline, and sadly, I don't see that this is going to turn that decline around.
30 seconds.
There's nothing about higher education, for example. I think supporting and increasing higher education would be one way forward. There's very little about working with the most prosperous areas on our doorstep, Teambridge, Exeter, and East Devon, which are going gangbusters for regeneration, and yet sadly we don't replicate that. So reluctantly, because there's nothing else on offer, we will vote for this, but it could be so much better. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bye. Councillor Mike Morrie, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm going to be parochial, if I may. Well, I am anyway. I want to talk about my neck of the woods, Brixham, obviously. Our economy is based on tourism and historically on fishing, the two major employers in the area. The two can work hand in hand, and indeed have been working hand in hand for generations, despite recently some trying to put a split between the two. There's absolutely no reason. Hopefully, regarding fishing, hopefully we will have some idea within the next couple of weeks of on our application for levelling up for the fishing industry. If it is a positive result, brilliant. If it's not a positive result, then I think we need urgently to look at a strategy to support both sectors, to be honest. I agree with Councillor O'Dwyer, if I think I got his gist correct. We have a low wage area. We need to be driving up as much as we can the level of salaries and wages in this area. And it's been and I make no apologies. It's something I've been going on for years and years and years. We cannot allow some sectors of our society to use labour as cheap labour. We've got to go away from that and make it difficult for those sectors to operate in such a manner. I could say more, but I'll not, Chair.
Councillor Steve Darling, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And, clearly pantomime season has come early to Torbay, and what a performance we've had from opposite us this evening. It is just not reflecting the reality of what has been happening in recent years. Whilst clearly the strategy has high hopes and high aspirations of where we will be driving our agenda, but the reality is, when you look at how we have walked the walk over the last recent years, how we've seen EPIC filling up ahead of schedule. We've seen the reality of us as a partnership between the Independents and the Liberal Democrats seeking to invest in firms who wish to come to Torbay, such as Nunusen's, and counsel from the blue corner suggesting that we don't invest in those companies when we've discussed it, and yet it's brought jobs to the Bay. The reality is a stark truth as to what goes on. When we are looking at town centre regeneration, we have dither and delay encouraged by the Conservatives opposite us in meetings, and we need to be pushing ahead with this agenda despite the awful situation that the national government has put us in with the complete car crash of budget that we had this autumn from Liz Truss. Colleagues, this economic strategy is despite the national government, and yet we as a partnership, we've talked about Premier Resort, we've actually been able to invest in our Premier Resort assets, which is a far cry from the utter car crash when the Conservatives ran this council, and the LGA came and did a peer review and found that we were actually poor leaders, and that we were on watch lists of the LGA of a council that was about to go bankrupt. That's the reality of the Conservatives running this council, and it's something to be avoided.
Councillor Manning, please.
I know it's going to be very popular, but you keep saying, put wages up, put wages up. Torbay and is run on small businesses mostly. Every cost of living at the moment for a small business is going up as well. Every time you put a wage up in a small business, you'll find one closes down. And that loses some more jobs. You can't keep putting wages up. It's all right for these big firms. They can put their wages up. They can afford to put their wages up. A small little business can't afford to keep putting wages up and up, to be honest with you. You know, and we keep asking for more wages. We'd all like more wages, but we'd like a job as well. So you want to be very careful when you keep saying put wages up. Think about jobs as well, because small businesses can't afford it, to be honest with you. So to put that across to you, but that's the truth.
Thank you, Councillor Manning. Councillor Chris Lewis.
Thank you very much indeed, Madam Mayor. We are supporting this, but what we are looking forward to is the action plan. I've spoken on this debate a number of times, as you say, Overview and Scrutiny Cabinet and others. I don't want to repeat what has been said. I thought Councillor Nicholas Barr's speech was excellent and pinpointed a number of issues. I thought Councillor Steve Darling was trying to make it political when we're all working for the good of the Bay. He criticises us when we're negative, and there he is being negative. We're not negative at all. I would like to answer Councillor Darling said about a company which is within the Epic building. I have heard a rumour that company is actually leaving the Bay. Perhaps Councillor Long can confirm that or not. I wasn't going to bring that up, but as Councillor Darling brought it up, I thought I would do so. But I mean, we are waiting for the action plan. Councillor Long, I think, stated that it would be in January. Does it then go to Cabinet and then come to full council, or does it stay with Cabinet? That's a question, but it's an action plan which is going to be the important document. The document before us today is very important because it gives the facts and the figures and you know, the background to it. But the action plan is how we're going to get businesses in the Bay, how we're going to improve and make sure that those figures go up. So we will be supporting it. And if Councillor Long can answer those couple of questions. Many thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Lewis. Councillor Dave Thomas, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm going to start off actually almost like Chris Lewis. I wasn't going to speak on this one. And I wasn't. But Councillor Lewis spoke, Councillor Darling spoke about that investment into a number of businesses. And I'm not going to mention the names, but you know, about it being a great opportunity, bringing forward these jobs. Councillor Lewis just actually raised there at the Epic Centre those businesses that we have invested in, and we understand, rumour, that they are leaving the Epic Centre, that they are moving out of Torbay, actually moving out of the UK and taking Torbay Council's money with them. And the skills that we have provided. And when it was mentioned, Councillor Long and Councillor Cowell looked very surprised at each other as if they didn't know anything about it. Now, I can't believe that my very good friend Councillor Lewis and I just have the rumours and clearly sitting here on the opposition and not having access to the data that you good folk have on that side. So if we could have assurances on that, that would be very helpful. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Thomas. Do we have any more debate? As there's no further debate, I return to Councillor Cowell. You reserved your right, Councillor Cowell.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And if any company is choosing to leave the UK, we have to ask the question why. I mean, I wouldn't dare mention the Brexit word, but I just did. We have been through a very challenging period, and I think members opposite have spoken quite eloquently about the challenges. Some members opposite have spoken eloquently in terms of the challenges that we've been facing with economic regeneration over a number of years. This is, as Councillor Long has alluded to, the fourth time that we've actually been discussing this in one way or another through overview and scrutiny, and of course it went out for extensive consultation. If some of those members opposite feel that the detail and the vision is lacking, they've had plenty of opportunity to actually feed in those positive moves and those positive suggestions into the strategy. Absolutely, it's like all of our strategies, we're committed to having an action plan, because that action plan is the Bible by which we can monitor the progress of any particular strategy. It's not the strategy itself, it's the outcomes of delivery that will actually make the difference. I worked in the high-tech sector. I worked at Nortel in its heyday, and there was no doubt that when that business shut and left Torbay, in fact it went globally, it had one of the most devastating impacts on the Bay's economy in the Bay's history. Out of that, I think somebody referred to them as scraps. There are some very good quality, high-tech businesses that have emerged from the ashes of Nortel, selling their products globally, added value products, global leaders in their sectors. And that actually needs continued encouragement. And clearly we want to encourage more high-tech business. I think there's a future in pharmaceuticals and health in general in the Bay. We've got the PMU in Paignton. So there are those opportunities, and we are looking at expanding the opportunities at the EPIC Centre. And there was reference to homes. Of course we need more homes, but we need the right homes in the right places, and they need to be targeted. And there was reference to key worker accommodation. Absolutely. And essential or key workers. I mean, I think there's semantics around the definition in many ways, but that is why we want to identify the delivery of key worker accommodation in Torbay, which will in turn support our healthcare system, which is on its knees, as I alluded to earlier, because of the lack of a national strategy to deal with adult social care. So, no economic strategy is ever going to be perfect. If it was, then we would be an extremely prosperous resort. We would be global leaders in many of the elements that we're talking about. But I've always argued that, for example, in tourism and in terms of education, we can actually be a nationally identified centre of excellence for hospitality training. We've got a fantastic college, we've got a fantastic sector in terms of hotels and hospitality here in Torbay, and that will actually chime into our aspiration to be a premier resort. And clearly it's a case of linking up those strategies so that they don't sit in isolation in a filing cabinet, that they're actually integrated with each other. And as Councillor Long alluded to, the delivery of the destination management plan recently. So I'm more than happy to second the proposal tonight, and I'm pleased that with even despite reservations from some members opposite, it sounds so it's going to get unanimous support. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Carroll. Councillor Long, your right of reply.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. I almost forgot to say that I had a very interesting leaflet land through my letterbox called, what is it called? It's called Torbay Residents Update, and it talks about our plan for growth. The first item was investment zones to drive regeneration. Well, that's time our council officers won't get back again in that bit. And the second one was cutting income tax from April 2023. Well, that's not happening either. So I think any kind of criticisms we might take with a slight pinch of salt. It does feel like Councillor By and I have had the same conversations 4 times. But just to get to the nub of the point, in terms of the supporting our existing businesses with tourism, as the destination management plan made clear, we're trying to not just support them willy-nilly, but to try to improve them so it becomes more of a all year round job so that people can have careers in tourism and not just summer jobs. So it's not throwing money at them, but just trying to improve it. And that's what things like the Premier Inn are all about. We are having a housing strategy coming, I think it's in February, and that is all about making sure we have the right houses and affordable housing as well. And it's not just for the people coming in, but it's also trying to make sure that people aren't leaving because they can't get the right housing either. In terms of the firm that I mentioned, I've not heard any rumours about that company, but we'll see what happens. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Long. I will now move to the vote. All those in favour, please raise your hands. That's unanimous. Thank you. Members, I did say that at 7 p.m. we would stop for a short break, but I hope you will bear with me as we only have 2 more items to go, and these items are both for noting, so I propose to just carry on. Oi. Item 11, Standing Order D11, in relation to overview and scrutiny call-in and the urgency. This report is for noting and no vote is necessary. Then we have item 12, composition and constitution of the Cabinet and record of delegations of executive functions. This report is for noting, but does the Leader of the Council wish to update the Council on the changes?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I will plan to do this at our Cabinet meeting next week.
Thank you, members, for your attendance at today's meeting. May I take this opportunity to wish you all a very Merry Christmas and good health in 2023, and I now close the meeting. Thank you.